Welcome back to Zion's Redemption Radio Network. I'm your host, Mark Lichtenwalter, and this is Loki, my dog. Anyway, so today we're going to be reading topic 37 of 95 Thesis, starting on page 57. Before we begin, I just stopped here in Springville, Utah. I started off this morning just a little bit east of Mesquite, and yesterday morning I left from Price and went down to Las Vegas and unloaded, then got back to Mesquite, at least that area. Anyway, and then now I'm reloaded in Price and headed up to Hiram, Utah, where I'm going to be sleeping tonight. Um, and I have a load up there. So tomorrow I'll head back down to Price, get reloaded, head over to Spanish Fork, and then go back to Price and get reloaded and head to Moroni, which is probably where I'll sleep tomorrow night. It's the fun life of a truck driver. Anyway, let's get into this reading. So topic 37 on page 57, Apostles' Assistants. It is the duty of the traveling high councils, or high council, speaking of the apostles, to call upon the 70 when they need assistance. Doctrine and Covenants, section 107, verse 38. So remember last topic, topic 36, we talked about apostles. The 70s are meant to go out and prepare the way for the apostles to come. And it is the duty of the 70s to do that. Continuing on, Joseph Smith spoke in Doctrinal History of the Church, Volume 2, page 417. I next call upon the quorums and the congregations of saints to acknowledge the presidents of 70s who act as their representatives, or their 12 apostles. As apostles and special witnesses to the nations, to assist the 12, so the 70s are apostles, to assist the 12 in opening the gospel kingdom among all the people, and to uphold them by their prayers, which they did by rising. That was, excuse me, Joseph Smith, Doctrinal History of the Church, Volume 2, page 417. Joseph Smith also stated in Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, page 112, the 70s are to be taken from the quorum of elders and are not to be high priests. They are subject to the direction and dictation of the 12 who have the keys of the ministry. Excuse me. So the church has gone against Joseph Smith and gone against God in ordaining the 70 apostles as high priests when they're meant to be elders. So the difference between a high priest and an elder is this. The high priests, they stay in one local area and they run things. So the presidency of the church are called as high priests. They are apostles, but they stay in the congregation of the saints in the gathering area. So we're supposed to be gathering to one place in North America, not gathering all over the world, wherever it is that we decide that we want to be. So, and the new gathering place is Emery County, Utah. And I know that's a big shock, and everybody probably thinks that I'm full of crap, but it is the gathering for the remnant. It's the gathering place for the remnant. And I take these off because I don't need them to read. I don't even need... Side tangent. I just got my driver's license renewed, and I passed the eye test, so I don't need these. But because I have a DOT medical card that says I need them, it has to stay on my license, which drives me nuts because for 20-something years, I've been right on the border of needing them and not needing them, and I would rather not use them because, like, I can see everything fine. 20/40 vision. I used to have better than 20/20, but I'm 48 now, so it happens to the best of us. Anyway, um, so the presidents of the 70s are also supposed to be high priest apostles. They're supposed to stay where the saints are gathered to. The 70s, who are apostles, which they are all supposed to be apostles, um, they are meant to be elders, and they are supposed to be going forth and preparing the way for the 12 to go and to gather Zion throughout the whole earth. Continuing on, Joseph Smith taught in Doctrinal History of the Church, Volume 4, page 129, if a high priest should be remiss in his duty, and should lead or suffer the church to be led astray, depart from the ordinances of the Lord, then it is the duty of the 70s, acting under the special direction of the 12, being duly commissioned by them with their delegated authority, to go to the church, and if agreeable to the majority of the members of said church, see, they don't have the authority to just go in and do whatever they want. They have to have agreement by the majority of the members in that church to proceed to regulate and put in order the same. Otherwise, he can have no authority to act. So the 70 apostle has no right to do anything in the church unless the membership of that specific church agrees with him and supports that decision. So things are topsy-turvy now. They're not the way they're supposed to be. But today in the modern church, therefore, at the late General Conference, 5 men who were high priests were called to act as assistants to the 12. This action shows the adaptability of the church to changing, increasing conditions, and that was according to John A. Whitsoe in the Improvement Era, May 1941, page 288. Also in the Improvement Era, in October 1956, page 752. All of the assistants to the 12 are high priests. See, this contradicts the instructions that God has given us. All of the assistants to the 12 apostles are high priests. If an elder or a 70 should be selected as an assistant to the apostles, he would be ordained to the office of a high priest. See, this contradicts the instructions given to us by Jesus Christ through Joseph Smith. And there were even instances in church, in the early history of the church, where people were mistakenly called as 70s who had already been ordained high priests, and they were told, or they were not allowed to have that position because high priests have a specific calling and there's order in the kingdom. It doesn't just change because the church wants it to change. The church has the authority to do whatever they want, basically. They have free agency. And God allows them their free agency. But one of the big problems is the definition of the word iniquity in Hebrew is that when a people have been given instructions by God to do certain things, they are supposed to do those things. The instruction has been given. The problem is that when individuals depart from the path that has been set out for them, they begin doing their own things or changing things, like the church has been changing things for the last, 170 years or 160 years or whatever it's been. That is the definition of iniquity. When we don't do what God has instructed us to do, that is what is called sin. breaking the instructions of God or the Torah, which means instructions in Hebrew, is sin. There's a lot of things that traditionally we Gentiles would call sin, but they're not sin because they are things that we do um, that are just like they're traditions. Um, but when we, as a people, do things which we're not supposed to do, and we depart from the path that God has given us, we are in iniquity. Iniquity is to depart from the path that God has given us. So, anyway, when we come back on, we'll be on page 58, which is topic 38, and we'll be focusing on the 70s, or the 70 apostles. So, all right, well, I'm going to get something to eat real quick, and Loki and I are going to go up to Hiram and deliver our load of carbon dioxide to J.B.S, which is a slaughterhouse, a beef slaughterhouse, and they use it to flash freeze the meat after uh, the bovine, the cows, and the bulls are slaughtered and cut apart. So I think it's really cool. So as a truck driver, I listen to all kinds of stuff all the time. I'm always listening to stuff. And the other day, so I've got YouTube Premium, and I can upload or download whatever it is um, videos to my phone, and I've got a terabyte of memory on this phone. And I can listen to them, and I can listen to them in the background. So I'm not watching them; I'm just listening to them, focusing on the road and driving. But I like to listen to the History Channel videos that are on YouTube, and they were talking about a man by the name of Birdseye who learned how to freeze food before um, refrigerators were available to the whole world, or to, at least this nation, the United States of America. Most people didn't have power, they didn't have indoor plumbing, they didn't have refrigerators, but um, because Birdseye, and that was his last name, and I can't remember his first name, because he was able um, to come up with this concept, he was able to flash freeze meat and vegetables. And when you go in the refrigerated section of your grocery store, a lot of the vegetables are Birdseye Post. And how that came about was the original Post, the father, the original person who started the cereal company Post, he died, and his daughter took over, and his daughter had a lot of money, and she would buy up all of these companies, and she bought Birdseye and made him the head of Birdseye. And like they actually used the funds um, of Post enterprises or companies to put refrigerators in houses, um, so that people could have frozen food. So when you freeze food the old way, as it's being frozen, it is rotting. So a lot of the vegetables would be very mushy and very gross, and the meat, when it was frozen, if it wasn't frozen in a certain way, it would become um, it would uh, it would rot as it was freezing. So meat wasn't good when it was frozen, and everything had to be fresh. But anyway, so fast forward 100 something years. I think this is during the time of the Rockefellers and when Hershey got his start and the Mars bar came out. Like, it's all cool. All the history is really cool. Anyway, but so, you fast forward all these years later, and here I am taking carbon dioxide, which is pumped out of the earth um, at about 60 to 70 degrees when it comes out of the earth, and they use ammonia to super freeze it. So it's down to like usually around 10 below zero, which is able to compress the gases so that they can transport, so we can transport it. And I'm actually loaded right now. I'm like 79,860 pounds or something like that. Um, um, and I'll fill up probably about 40,000 pounds of liquid carbon dioxide, which is compressed, and in a compressed form, it's a liquid. But when it is at atmospheric temperature, it becomes dry ice. But they use the carbon dioxide to freeze or flash freeze the meat so that it stays fresh. So that's my job right now. I'm a hazmat hauling tanker carbon dioxide kind of guy. So anyway, I really like this job, but he is running my butt off. And let's see, last week, I only worked 3 days last week because I took 4 days off to go with my wife to Park City, which was really nice. But the week before that, I did a JBS in Hiram. I came back down to Price. I preloaded that day and drove to just 20 something miles north of Moab, Utah. And then the next day I drove down to Phoenix and past Phoenix to Chandler and delivered at Intel, which uses carbon dioxide for, I have no idea what they use it for. Um, and then I went back up to Price and got reloaded and headed back down to Phoenix or past Phoenix to Chandler. And then I came back and I did a short run to Moroni. And when I got back to the yard, I had about 10 minutes left on my 70-hour rule. And by the time I was done with my fueling and my pre-trip, I was actually over my 70-hour rule, which means if you go over 11 hours of driving, you can't drive anymore in a shift, but you can be on duty for however long. If you get up to your 70-hour rule, you cannot drive anymore, but you can still work. So I wasn't illegal or anything, but man, I enjoy this work. I do miss the oil field some, but this is so much easier on me. Last summer, some of you will know, I actually had, well, I don't know if you can see it. There's scars here and here. Um, I had surgery done here for carpal tunnel and for carpal tunnel on both arms and both elbows. I got this one done in June, and I got this one done, my left arm and wrist, done in July. So it's been a year, but they still hurt. And they don't hurt as much as they used to. But when I was lifting and doing all the work that is required for a crude hauler in the oil fields, they just weren't healing. I mean, I could use them and everything, but they ached all the time. So this is so much easier to do this. Um, it's so much easier. So I'm glad that I'm doing this for now. I hope to be able to purchase a semi truck by next spring. Hopefully that'll work out. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do this. So if I put a semi truck on doing this, I can make $4 a mile, and I would make between 10 to 12,000 miles a month, and that's conservative. Um, the week that I went down to Chandler, Arizona twice, I actually uh, got paid for 3,400 miles, so that was kind of cool. So 3,400 miles in a week is not bad at all. Most truck drivers are around 10,000 miles a month. When I was an over-the-road truck driver and I ran 48 states in Canada, I always got 12,000 or 13,000 miles a month, but that was back in a different time before electronic logging devices. Anyway, but excuse me. If I don't put it on doing carbon dioxide, and like there's less risk involved with and less liabilities involved with carbon dioxide than with crude oil, but I can make so much more doing crude. And if I do crude, I can hire people that live in the local area where I live to drive it and do a 4 on 4 off schedule. And then when they go home at night after their 14 hours, I would take the truck and I would go get a load 6 days a week and take Saturdays off for the Sabbath. Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping to do, but I'm not sure how that's all going to work out. I could also do haul coal, and I've done that before too. I like crude better, but coal is less liability um, than um, than crude oil. Crude is a huge liability, especially if you have a driver who does something really stupid. So, for instance, one of my acquaintances, um, his name is Boyd, and he lives in Farron, and he owns like 4 or 5 trucks and trailers, and he was making like I think it was like 40,000 a month per truck. Of course, there's a lot of things that you have to pay for when you're like insurance and all kinds of stuff, but he was making pretty good money at it. And he's building a company, and that's what I want to do because I've got a 10-acre plot, and I can put a garage there and put trucks there and have my own trucking company, which is something that I would really like to do. But one of his drivers did not buy the well correctly. So you have to test things and you have to look for water and do all this stuff before you buy a well. Well, he didn't do any of that. He just fudged the numbers and he took the load and he took it over to Wildcat, which is a place that transfers the crude oil from the tankers from the trucks pull to railway tankers, and they rejected the load because it was a lot of water. And water comes up with crude. So anyway, and he would have caught that if he would have done what he was supposed to do, but he didn't because, there's lazy truck drivers out here that have no business being out here as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so instead of taking it back and admitting his error, he went and tried to dump the water through the belly of the tanker um, down a drainage that went to the Price River, and then he tried to dump it in a car wash, and then he tried to dump it somewhere else, and he made messes everywhere he went, and so the EPA got involved and seized all of his assets, Boyd's assets, because of what this guy that he had hired did, and he ended up having to sell all of his trucks and trailers to my friend Fred. And he is looking at jail time because of what his employee did. So there's a lot of risks involved, but the money's there. It's really good. So, but I could always go back to coal. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. This by far is the best for my body. Driving these trucks, doing this run, um, I'm not being beat up as much. And somebody so I started driving truck in 1994 in a potato field north of Idaho Falls called Larson's Farms, which had hundreds of thousands of acres, and they grew. Well, what I was on the potato harvest, driving a 1945 deuce and a half with a potato bin on the back, and my job was to drive next to the digger, and it would throw the potatoes in the bin, and then I'd go, and there was a conveyor belt on the inside, and it'd go down onto a conveyor belt that went into a cellar where the potatoes are stored for the winter. And that's the harvest every year. I was the only person on the team that spoke English except for my supervisor. Everybody else spoke Spanish. Nobody spoke English. They all hated me because I had a motorhome that my grandparents let me use um, to live in, and I worked from midnight on Sunday um, till 4 p.m. 6 days a week, and on Saturday at 4 p.m. I got off, and I was off from 4 p.m. on Saturday to midnight on Sunday. So and I lived in my motorhome the entire time and just used water and a basin to like sponge bath and do all this stuff. Anyway, after the harvest was over, I went to Job Corps in Clearfield, Utah, and got my degree in advanced diesel mechanics and also got my GED because my in 10th grade, my aunt and uncle moved out while I was at work one day. So I was homeless after that for a while, and then my grandparents found out what was going on, and they pulled some strings and got me that job driving that truck. So, and they helped get me into Job Corps too. Anyway, but you know, in '95 I got my Class A CDL, and in '96 I started driving trucks. So, excuse me. It was August of '95 that I got my CDL, and so I've had my CDL almost 30 years at this point, it being July 14th, 2025. So also another interesting thing, on July 15th of 2013 is when God told me to sever the ordinances and priesthood of all the holy people. And he told me to use the authority that he gave me in 2003 to do this. And I was very confused because I was like, "What? Why do you want me to do this?" And he said, "Because if they will not accept you as my witness, then I will not accept them." Okay, so I did that. So the anniversary, the 12th anniversary of that is coming up tomorrow, July 15th, 2025. It'll be 12 years since I did that. In August of 2013, my aunt notified me because she knew what had happened, and she knows all of this other stuff too, with me seeing the Father face to face. And in fact, God told her before I would accept the whisperings of the Spirit that I was the one mighty and strong spoken of in scriptures. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just a truck driver. Like, I know I've had these experiences, but I'm not. Anyway, and I just continued to deny her and to reject the whisperings of the Spirit until January of 2013 when the Father came to me and he said, "Kneel down before me and ask me who you are." And I was like, "Okay." Yes, sir. So I knelt down and I asked him, "Who am I?" And that's when he showed me, he took me up in the Spirit and he showed me a vision of the pre-existence where I saw the throne of God, the Father, the throne of God, the Redeemer, and the throne of God, the Witness. And of course, it was Michael, God the Creator, who was standing in front of the throne. And then it was Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, standing in front of the throne of the Redeemer. And it was Lucifer who was standing in front of the throne of the Witness, or the Holy Ghost. And I saw Lucifer rebel, and he was cast out, and he was stripped of his name and his title, Hillel ben Shakar, or a son of light and glory, or a son of the morning. And he became Hasatan, which means the accuser. And so that calling for this earth was vacated by excommunication, essentially. And I saw that there were 12 who were called mighty and strong, who stand in front of the Father and the Son and the witness. And that I was told that the Father, the Son, and the witness, and these 12 consist of the mighty and strong ones for this earth. So you've got a first presidency, and then you have a quorum of 12 who are called mighty and strong, who are like the apostles in the first presidency of the church. And under them are the noble and great ones, which are like the 70 apostles. And I saw that all of these individuals, including Michael, Jesus, um, and Lucifer, were under the direction of Jehovah our Elohim. Jesus Christ and Jehovah are not the same person. I've been saying this for years. I have showed, I've done podcasts about it, and this was a later invention um, in the 1880s when this began to crop up in the writings of the church, where Jesus and Jehovah are the same person. They are not the same person. Jesus did not appear before Mohanre Mori Ankumer in Ether chapter 3, but Jehovah had appeared and walked face to face with Enoch and Adam and Methuselah and multiple others before the flood. And after the flood, he sat down and ate a meal of meat and dairy with Abraham, and he had a body at that point. That was after the flood. Well, after the flood and after the Tower of Babel, when Mohanre Mori Ankumer saw the brother, saw Jesus Christ had a spirit body, and he said, "This is what I will look like when I come in the flesh." He did not have flesh at that time, but Jehovah was already a resurrected, exalted being. So, and understanding these things, the only way you can understand the Adam God doctrine is to understand these things. If you continue to hold on to your traditions, which were sown into the church by Satan in the 1880s, then you'll never understand the Adam God doctrine. So, anyway, I'm going to get out of here because I got 2 minutes before. So, as a truck driver, I can split my sleeper berth up, and I can take a 2-hour break in the middle of the day if I want, at any time in the middle of the day, and then finish my 14 hours and my 11-hour clock. And then I have to take 8 hours off or 10 hours to reset the whole thing. And I needed a shower because I hadn't showered since yesterday morning, and it was like 100 and something down in Phoenix yesterday, and I had to unload into 2 tanks, and it took me 2 hours in the blazing hot Las Vegas sun, and I was about dead when I walked out of there. And then I didn't get a shower yesterday, and I got reloaded today, and I'm like, I'm done. I need a shower. Plus, it's 7:18 p.m. now on the 14th of July 2025. But when I got down here 2 hours ago, it was 5, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit in rush hour traffic anyway, so I might as well just hold off for a minute and pause my 14-hour clock and take a shower and get clean and do a video and eat some food and then go again. So that's what we're doing right now. So I hope that every one of you has a wonderful day. I hope that God pulls back the veil over the eyes of the saints and their traditions so that they can repent and receive the ordinances and the priesthood that have been stripped from them. And I'm sorry to have to say it, but it was prophesied in Daniel chapter 12 that this would happen. And when I was told to do it, I did not know about that prophecy. But in the last days, the man clothed in linen in chapter 12 of Daniel raises his arms to the square, or to the air, and severs or scatters the power. And what is the power? It is the holy priesthood. He severs the power of all the holy people in the last days. Who are the holy people on the earth in the last days? The set apart people. That is the people of the restoration. And why did this happen? Because there has to be a setting in order and a hard reset. The priesthood was not taken off the earth. It is in me. I hold the priesthood for the earth, the Aaronic, the Melchizedek, and even the fullness of the Melchizedek priesthood. The Father gave that to me in 2003. So this is part of the setting in order. There was a hard reset. And when I asked the Father, because I was shocked that he asked me to do this, I said, why do you want me to do this? He says, because if they will not accept you as my witness, I will not accept them. So part of accepting me as a witness means that you come to me and you baptize, or I baptize you, and I give you priesthood. And priesthood is not only for men, but it is also for women. There is a paternal priesthood and a maternal priesthood. And my wife holds that priesthood as well. So anyway, yeah, I am. There's more to be done, and now is the time of warning. And when the destructions come, the remnant will go down the highways at the top of the mountains and into the desert places, and that's where Zion will be redeemed. So everybody that looks at all this stuff, oh, what the Davidic servant supposed to do? Well, there's a lot of things that I will do when it is time to do them. But because I haven't done them yet, isn't an excuse to reject me. This is a test. And J. Golden Kimball and Heber C. Kimball, they both said, a test is coming and few will stand. But the remnant will stand. And when we redeem Zion in the wilderness and in the desert places, as Isaiah saw in his visions, then Zion will be redeemed. But not until that. So I leave these things with you in the name of Messiah. Amen. Take care, everyone. God bless, and goodbye.